welcome you all. I am Dr. Shushmita Mukhopadhyay, Associate Professor of Vinod Gupta School of Management, IIT Kharagpur, will be taking you through the next phase of the course. The earlier phase of the course was taken by Dr. Srinivasan, and I hope all of you have enjoyed the course. So let us see what is there in this week's discussion, which is Module 7. The main topics to be discussed are the two important functions of management in this week, which includes staffing and coordination. In staffing, we will discuss about the HRM, the recruitment and selection process, performance appraisal and career strategy. And in coordination, we will discuss about the concepts, issues and techniques. Today, in the lecture 1 of the week, we will discuss the concept, importance, components, functions, steps, processes, and relation between staffing and HRM. So let us move forward. Now, when we discuss about staffing, before that, we need to understand very clearly the concept of strategic HRM, because staffing is an integral part of the strategic HRM function, and if we are not able to understand the concept of strategic HRM properly, then maybe we'll not be able to understand the importance of staffing also in this whole process. Now, what is strategic HRM? Strategic human resource management can be defined as the linking of human resources with the strategic goals and objectives of the organization in order to improve the business performance and develop organizational culture that foster innovation, flexibility and competitive advantage. So it is very important to understand that when we are discussing strategic HRM, the goal is focused on the business goal of the organization, and it contributes towards improving business performance. Now, what does it involve? It involves the development of a consistent, aligned collection of practices, programs and policies to facilitate the achievement of the organization's strategic objectives. It requires the abandoning of the mindset and practices of personal management, which are the age-old practices, traditional practices that HRM should function in a silo and it is maybe not connected to the organizational objectives. That mindset need to be abandoned, and what we need to develop then, we need to focus on the strategic issues more and then the operational issues. And what is most important is the integration of all HRM programs within the larger framework, facilitating the organization's vision, mission and its objectives. Now, if we are to discuss in a nutshell what are the differences between traditional HRM and strategic HRM, what we see over here that the responsibility for traditional HRM was with the staff specialists, but with strategic HRM, the responsibility lies with the line managers. The focus in traditional HRM was on employee relations, and in strategic HRM, it is the partnership with the internal and external customers. When you're talking of the internal and customers, all the employees are also the customers of the organization, and each department may be the customer to the next department who are aligned in functions together. What is the role of HR? In traditional HRM, the role of HR is transactional in nature. It is the change followers and their respondent. While in strategic HRM, the role is more transformational in nature. They are the change leaders and they are change initiators. While taking initiatives in In traditional HRM, you'll find like they are very slow, reactive, and fragmented, while in strategic HRM, it is fast, proactive, and integrated. The time horizon for traditional HRM is a short term focus, but in strategic HRM, we find it is short, medium, and long term focus as and when necessary. The control in terms of traditional HRM is more bureaucratic, roles, policies, and procedures. In strategic HRM, it is organic, flexible, whatever is necessary to give success. The job design in case of traditional HRM is tight division of labor, then there is independence and specialization. But in case of strategic HRM, you find broad, flexible, cross training, and more of teamwork. The key investment in traditional HRM are capitals and products, while in strategic HRM, you'll find like the people and knowledge are the main investments. The accountability, what we find, which is a major shift in traditional HRM, it is taken to be the cost center, while in strategic HRM, it is investment center. So, what you see, like with the change in philosophy of by moving from traditional HRM to strategic HRM, where employees are more looked into as the investment centers, strategic partners in the decision making of the organization, major contributors towards the performance of the organization. Organization has become more flexible. It has become more like cross training, teamwork has more important. Then has become more important, then obviously it is going to affect the nature of the staffing of the organization. So, what we see over here, the strategic goal of the organization, and is that of like the when you're talking of the strategic HRM, organizational strategy and strategic HRM are intertwined with each other, where people take a leadership role in the successful achievement of the strategic goal of the organization. While we move through the concept of HRM, these are the functions of HRM, and the regular functions like the recruiting, selecting, inducting employees, providing orientation, imparting training, development, appraising, performance appraisal, all these functions that we have known, which are the traditional functions which are required, like when we call of like acquiring employees, developing employees, motivating employees, then keeping them in the organization and see that how they grow. All the functions and the well-being of the employees, all these HR functions are related to each of these phases of the process of the HR process. But what we have to keep in mind now, like traditionally all these functions were taken like they are functioning in silos, but now with the changing concept as we have moved to strategic HRM, it is believed like all these functions are related with each other, and they are also related with the main goal of the organization. So we'll just make a quick look forward through the different components of the HRM process, which includes first, of course, which is very important, is the human resource planning, like which balances the demand and supply forecasting of manpower. Second important function, definitely, which we are going to discuss today, is that of staffing, because it helps in the manning of the organization. Third is the training and development. Fourth, performance appraisal. Then compensation, motivation of employees. Maintaining the proper relations with the employees is also very important. Maintaining labor rules and legal provisions so that we are abide by the laws of the land, then we abide by the processes of equal opportunities, and everything is like whether there are promotions, retirement, and security measures for the employees during accidents and everything. These are done as per law, and there is no discrimination done to any employees based on any sort of grounds. So if we want to see it in a flow diagram, what we see over here, like the staffing is one of the major important functions which leads to the training, and after that training is done, it can be both on the job training and off the job training. It leads to performance assessment, then again which leads to motivation, which can be through either rewards or benefits or recognition. And then what you see in performance appraisal also, there are two methods, which are the traditional method and then the modern method. And then with motivation, it gets linked to the compensation received by the employees in the organization, and that it helps in maintaining the labor relations, and again it leads to maintenance of health, welfare and safety. So how it gets linked is that if again these all these processes are done properly, definitely it is going to get a good feedback about the organization, and the organization will get a recognition from the society at large, and maybe many people will be interested to join the organization, which is definitely going to have a good result on the staffing. So here are the different functions again of HRM, which are like we can classify it to be the managerial functions and the operational functions. In managerial functions, what you see, planning, organizing, staffing, directing and controlling are there. And in operational functions, procurement, development, compensation, maintenance, motivation and integration is there. In today's discussion, we are going to focus on staffing. So again, like these are the discussions which are on like different functions, starting from recruitment. We will discuss bit on human resource planning before we move on to the staffing. Human resource planning, why we are discussing it? Because it is the start phase of thinking about like whom do I want in the organization, where from to get those people, why do I want them in the organization, how they are going to match with my strategic goals of the organization. So it is a very, very important component of human resource management, which helps in the systematically forecast an organization's future demand for and supply of employees. So it has like, because if it is done in that way, it also helps an organization to staff itself with the right people at the right time. It has the 6 interrelated areas of activities, such as demand forecasting, like it helps in estimating future manpower needs; supply forecasting, it helps in estimating the future supply of manpower; forecasting requirements, like then we want to see what is the demand supply forecast to identify future deficits or supply or surplus of employees; productivity and cost analysis, analyzing the productivity, capacity utilization and costs in order to increase the productivity and reduce the costs; action planning, preparing a plan of action to deal with deficits and surplus of the future manpower; budgeting and control, setting human resource budgets and standards, and monitoring and the implementation, monitoring the implementation part. Now, when we have known what is our strategic goal, and when we know like what are the human resource plans, like whether there is a demand, whether there is a supply, what is the difference between the demand and supply, will it lead to a deficit of manpower or will it lead to a surplus of manpower in the future that it's going to come, and how I see the movement of people within my organization and maybe out of my organization also, After I have done all these background studies and exercises, after that only I am ready for staffing. So, assuming that an organization has studied its strategic goals properly, understood the alignment of the human resource functions and policies and processes with the strategic goals of the organization, and done its human resource planning properly, then we are going to discuss about staffing. So let us see what is the concept of staffing. Staffing is an important function of management. It involves the process of filling the vacant position with the right personnel at the right job at the right time. Hence, everything will occur in a right manner. So, it is a very integral part of HRM process. It is a set of activities which are aimed at attracting and selecting the workers for the purpose of achievement of the organization's goals. According to Coons and O'Donnell, staffing involves manning the organizational structure through proper and effective selection, appraisal, and development of personnel to assign the roles so designed. So, once is that, and to enable to the staffing to happen properly, then the effective human resource management is also a very essential part, because what are the processes, whether do you have a proper HR system in place or not, all this will, whether do you have a established hiring mechanism, whether you take care in maintaining and developing committed and competent staff in the organization, what is your philosophy towards your employees in the organization, all these are going to affect your staffing. So, when we go to study the relationship between staffing and HRM, what we find is that, like, staffing is people centered, it revolves around people, it requires the use of human skills. So, it is concerned with the training and development of human resources. So, how, like, you make people more competent to function in the job that they are placed, how to do their performance appraisal, to how to have you define their job roles properly or not, these are very important. And also, staffing is a um, continuous function, and it is a significant function for both a new and existing organization. So, what happens maybe for a new or an existing organization, the focal point of staffing will be different, or the way that the approach towards staffing would be different, but staffing is a continuous function and very important function both for new and existing organizations. So if you can see over here, here we have tried to link the staffing function with the corporate strategy and the HR strategy. So what we find over here, like, the corporate strategy gets, like, affected by the external environment functions and the internal environment, like the things in the internal environment. So, and this strategy again has a, you'll find like this, it has a bidirectional arrow also on the internal environment of the organization. These together will affect your business strategy. The business strategy is going to affect the HR strategy regarding, like, what is your HR planning, how do you design your jobs and the work systems, so what you expect workers to do, then, like, what are the workers would they need to do their jobs properly, so how do the jobs interface with each other, all these are parts of HR strategy. So this may lead to, like, sometimes employee separations, because people who are not able to adjust to the demands in the job or to the job situation or to the organization's culture, or the like the pace in the job, they may go for separation. Others may decide to continue, and those who decides to continue, then what you find over here, like what are the laws which are regulating the regular employment, it will affect your separation also. And what is the human resource information system is kept, like what is the how you are maintaining your talent pool, and these will have a effect on your staffing, training, performance management, compensation, and again the labor relations, which are again going to affect each other. So in this way, like if you are able to do your staffing properly, maintaining a link with the corporate strategy down to the business strategy linked to the HR strategy, then what you find is the employees contribution performance gets well linked with the performance of the organization, and they're able to contribute well to the goals of the organization. Now here what we are trying to show is a relation between staffing and the HRM model of the manpower system division. What we are trying to see over here, we should not consider staffing as only a mere process. Rather, we should take it as an HR decision with lot of thought process going into understanding how is my staffing linked with the strategy of the organization. In the next few months, or the coming years, what are the movements that I can expect to happen at the different levels of my organization? What you see in this triangle are people moving from one layer to the other layer in the hierarchy. So this will also depend on the career planning, succession planning that you have designed, that you have in mind for the employees. What you see also, as we discussed about employee separation, some people are moving out to a particular from a particular organization, they're going out, there is an employee separation. Others you find, like from one layer people are moving to the next layer. So there is, until and unless you know when this movement happens and who is most expected to move to the next layer or to the move out, then you will not be able to understand like how will be, what will be the nature of the vacancy, when that vacancy will happen, and where to get your people who is going to fill up this. And your decision also, do you really want to fill up that gap, or you want to like merge two job roles so that you don't have to fill up that gap. So these are HR related decisions which needs to be taken, and staffing is also in that way an HR decision that you have to see, like whom to get, how to get, whether to get or not, to get at what point of time the employees. All these questions you have to answer, and then follow your regular processes of recruitment, selection, training, appraisal, and motivation and other things. So, and also one important, very important function, why I'm repeating like staffing is rather a decision rather than a mere process in the whole HR system, because we find like that there are changing roles of people. People are no longer playing only one role, that they are coming to the organization as employee and they are reacting to the orders given, or they're carrying out orders given to them. In the present time, people are expected to play different roles. What you see over here, people are playing the role of strategic partner, they're playing the role of change agent, they're playing the role of employee champion, and they also have to play the role of administrative expert. So when we are thinking of staffing, while we are thinking of placing a person in a particular position, we need to understand also what kind of role we expect that the person should be playing for us. Another function which affects the staffing process is, of course, the span of control that the that is there at a particular level. What, because we understand people or the organizations are now moving forward from single people working towards a team based structure, what we can find over there as depicted in this picture is like the number of relationships possible when you have like two people, three people, four people working with each other. So there could be like cross relationship between two people, there could be group and direct and group relationships, and there are what you find there are n number of total relationships which are happening, which is a very very complex system. So why we're discussing this over here, to help us to understand whenever we are thinking of staffing, it is not only filling up that position with a particular x number of or x employee. We have to be very careful about whom we are placing in that position and why, whether that person will be able to deal with the expected relationships as expected in that position. What we see over here is like when maybe two people are working together, there are minimum of two, like maximum of two cross relationships, and like when you're talking of direct group relationships also there are two. As a result, what you find that total relationships possible which are like six and minimum of four relationships. When you find like six people, you may be thinking like I'll make a 6-member team. What you find, there are 30 maximum cross relationships and 186 direct group relationships, and in total there are 222 maximum relationships, which if you can like see that picture, visualize that picture, what is the importance? These six people are not just mere numbers to be filled, vacant positions to be filled with anyone that we get over there. We have to see the right qualification, the right competence, the right personality, the right attitude, mindset of the person, not only the technical know-how of the job, but the behavioral aspects also, which will help him or her to progress, stay in the organization, uh, like contribute properly to the group goals and to the organizational goals. So because of this increased nature of the complexity of the job, changing nature of the job, the staffing function has become further more important and complex, and it is the great responsibility of the organization to do the staffing properly, because the the better the staffing process, the better employees that you get into the organization who will contribute in a better way for the for not only for their own development but also for the organization's development. So, as we discuss the importance of staffing, what we find, it helps in discovering of qualified and obtaining competent personnel for the various jobs in the organization. So, since the right person, the focus is on recruiting the right person for the right job, and this right is not only right in terms of only in educational qualification, but with the right attitude, right behavior, right mindset, like pro, sorry, right proactiveness to the contribute to the organization's goal. And if you can do that properly, then what happens? Like it gives optimum utilization of manpower, and it helps to like lead to the not only the organization's development but also to the it leads to the person's development also, because if it is not only mapping the right person to the right job, but we have to see the HR also needs to be developed properly, the whole system needs to be there in place, the organizational culture has to be well developed also. Both the staffing process and the culture and the HR systems together will lead to a very good, well balanced synergistic system where both the employee and the organization can grow together properly with the proper staffing there in place. So, mm, what we also find over there, if we can visualize who are the people required, when will be the vacancy, how to train people, what will be the future job requirements, then what happens, it will prevent any shortages of competent workers or excess of workers, because we can like we have forecasted our staff requirements for the present and for the long term objectives of the organizations properly. So the right technology can also be used for getting the right persons in place to be selected in the organizations. So the employees also now recognize the dignity of labor. So they also understand like the importance that the staffing has in the whole system of the organization's function, and they also want to look forward to processes where they are able to contribute towards the organization's goals as a valued member of the organization. So this, in nutshell, the steps of staffing are, of course, it will start with manpower planning. Second is recruitment. Third is selection process. Then after recruitment and selection is done, it leads to placement in the when we place the person in a particular job for duty, induction, then training, compensation, and performance appraisal is a very, very important part of the staffing process. Promotion, transfer, and of these, what we see over here, like all these processes, it starts with, like when you're talking of manpower planning, recruitment, selection, these are very important steps in getting the people into the organization, then placing the person in the job. Induction and training is making the person comfortable with the job, giving them the knowledge about the job. Compensation is a part of the motivation done so that the person is motivated to stay there. Then the performance appraisal, it is taken to be a feedback process where what is expected about to reach the organization's goal, how far the employee, what was expected as a performance from the employee, whether that person, how far that person has done it, and what can be done to improve on his or her performance. Then based on that, these are decisions about the career planning of the organization, about promotions or transfers, so that which helps the person to get ideas about the other job roles, these, so that in future if required the person can take up other responsibilities also. So these are important parts of the staffing functions, so that making people prepared for the present and also maybe the future upcoming roles. So the two basic steps are, of course, the recruitment and selection. And recruitment and selection, of course, begins with the job analysis, then preparing the job description, identifying the job specification, then attracting a pool of recruits and selecting the best recruits. We'll be discussing more about recruitment and selection in the next session, which is the next session, which is coming in this week. If we have to conclude about the functions of staffing, it is to obtain qualified personnel for different job positions of the organization. So getting the right person for the right job, and then of course this right person, as we've already told, it is about the get right education, right mindset, right attitude, right qualification, right competency, and mapping that person with the right job, so that it is not only the person who develops, and both the person and the organization develops together. So the principles of staffing are like the what we have to understand, it is a continuous exercise, it is a permanent exercise. So the job needs to be defined properly. Then what are the expectations from the job, like, and how the performance is defined. The performance appraisal needs to be defined properly, so that what happens when you're going for staffing, we have gone there with a full background exercise done. We know like what is the position that we are looking for, why we are looking for people in that position. We understand that it is a regular exercise that needs to be done, because recruitment, selection, training, induction, this is not a one time yearly process, it is a regular process which is required. So the knowledge development of the person takes place, the and people are kept updated about their how their development, competency development, and how they are able to contribute towards the organization's goal. What are the organization's expectations from them are clearly stated, how far they have reached its objectives, and what they need to contribute more, and their contributions to the organizations are also like clearly stated to them in measurable terms. So with this, we'll come to the end of this discussion of this lecture session. So what we have covered in this lecture session are the basic concepts, importance, and components and functions of staffing. We have tried to discuss, given you an overview of strategic HRM. We have tried to like discuss on how staffing forms an integral important part of strategic HRM, how staffing is not only just a mere process or a function, but it is a decision that the organization needs to take about whom to place and where to place, because we have seen like it is very deeply connected with this decision is a decision which is about the present and the future manpower strength of the organization. When you have seen like there could be different kinds of movements across the organization at different positions, either people moving from one level to the other, people moving out of the organization for various reasons. So it has to be linked with the succession planning also, so that and a decision whether to fill up a position and whether not to fill up a position. We've also seen how in today's time, like it is very important, like relationships at work are become complex and important with increasing nature of teamwork. So it's very important who are your team members, who are the team members, people with right knowledge and right attitude, and the people who can contribute and take initiative towards the organization goal, and a mutual, like who can live in a mutual synergy of not only personal growth and also organization's growth, are the people whom the organization need to bring in together and place in a particular position, and also take care like they do not suffocate in the organization, but also their personal growth, their career growth is also taken into consideration, as they also like love being within the organization and grow within the organization. The both the organization and the employee together grow and together like contribute towards each other's development and reach towards very sustainable system. So that is the very important focus of staffing and contribution of staffing towards the strategic HR functions. The next lecture sessions that are going to come up with this background in mind, we are going to discuss on recruitment and selection, which is a very important part of staffing. We are going to discuss on performance management and performance appraisal. We are going to discuss on, as I told, the career development of the organization, of the employees in the organization is very important. It's not only that you bring in people and they're only going to contribute for the organization's growth, the organization is equally responsible to see that the persons grow in their career, and there is a personal growth in terms of competencies and knowledge base also. And we will also discuss about coordination functions, like how all these functions together can be coordinated with each other, because whether we discuss about staffing or we discuss about any other function, coordination is very, very important within the sub functions of the HRs and the different other functions also. So as we progress through the lecture of this week, we will discuss on all these, we'll discuss on each of these things, and we'll try to conclude about its importance towards the staffing and the behavior of the staffing functions of the organization, and towards the total functioning of the management and the success of the organization. Thank you.